Hi, everyone. This is Livia Caudell, your host for the Conscious Wealth Builders Online Summit. And I am here with Lawrence Ford, the founder of Conscious Capital Wealth Management. Hi, Lawrence. How are you?
Hey, Livia. I'm blessed. Nice to be here. Thank you so much for having me. And the work that you do out there is so needed.
So awesome. Yeah, and I just love the picture back there. It's so beautiful. And you got the salt lamp, and you truly are just a very conscious guy. And I got to meet you at the Conscious Capitalism chapter in Boston.
Right. Up in New England.
Yeah. Yeah, that was so awesome. And I just was like a magnet to you because your energy is so elevated. You just radiate with so much joy and love and compassion. And I just was like, I don't know who this guy is, but I've got to meet him.
Outstanding. Hey, we'll jump right in. That reminds me of a story a great master taught me once
Yeah.
when he was, actually, I'll say his name. He's an amazing man. His name is Dr. Larry Peters. And he happens to be one of the real stewards of knowledge. And I say that in a different way other than wisdom, but one of the real stewards of knowledge of shamanism. So he taught at a lot of colleges out in the West Coast, and he did some trips. A part of my story, which we might talk about, brought me to him at one point, but he told me this story, which I love. And this is in response to what you just said about me.
Yeah.
And to the rest of our viewers out there, when they see somebody and they see their essence and their power and their love and just think it's awesome. So he's telling me this story. Picture this guy. He's like an anthropologist, gray hair, ponytail, just like the quintessential intellect anthropologist. And so I'm actually hearing this story on a rooftop in Nepal. And I'm just invigorated with this guy's wisdom and his knowledge, and he's sharing it. So he's telling me this story at one time in his life. He was following this teacher, not like a groupie kind of weird thing, but, he just loved his writings of this spiritual teacher. And he went to one of his seminars, and he was so moved by this guy's authenticity. And just, he went up afterwards, and, as sometimes people will do with the speakers, and standing in front of him, he's like, "Oh, Stephen," he says, "my God, your wisdom and your passion and your love and your heart and the way that you communicate this and the way you communicate that." He goes, "You're just so amazing." And Stephen looked back at him and said, "Do you really see that?" And he said, "Yeah." And he said, "It's you." So, same back to you, Livia.
Thank you. So received.
And to the rest of our viewers, who resonate with the messages of what Livia's bringing out there and what maybe a few things I have to say today, it's something inside of your soul that if you resonate with it, it's truth. If you see it, embrace it. And live.
Yeah, that's so good. Thank you, Lawrence. So you're like this financial advisor, guru slash shaman slash just very much like it says there, trademarked, live whole. You're all about the holistic human being. So not just the financial aspect of money management, but the whole human being. So share a little bit about your story, your journey, and how this all got created.
So, where do we start? I would say, it's like, tell me about yourself. I think really, the most important thing as I tell my story is really about being authentic and also communicating to everybody who's listening that, although maybe my story may seem a bit eccentric or a bit unique or a bit profound, it's really no different than your story.
Yeah.
Everybody has their story. And so, I came to this in unfolding in my life in a way of becoming more authentic, just becoming more me. Sometimes people say, well, when did you know you were supposed to do this? Well, I think that's really the wrong question because we always knew, we just forgot. And,
That's
the
beautiful.
shamans will call that domestication. And we come to a place of our lives where we are just asleep. And so the shamans will talk about, how we're sleepwalking back and forth. And I think that's a natural evolution of ourselves in our lives. Sometimes we have to get lost in order to find ourselves. And unfortunately, we see most of our culture today who's lost. And they're caught in being lost. And the shamans will call it sleepwalking. So in my life, I went through some of those journeys and doing some things in my life that, I knew weren't fully me. They were partly me, but I was just trying to become me. It's all I've been trying to do my whole life is trying to just be me fully. And, we're living in a world of finance and Wall Street and investments and money. That world tends to be dominated by fear, greed, obfuscation, bullying, lots of testosterone, uh,
Yeah. Wow.
and it tends to not honor our species and care for our species. And
Yeah.
so my journey really became, I always knew that I had some special gift, and I knew that from a little kid. And those things began to evolve and erupt in my life. And when I started to push them down a little bit more, they would erupt louder,
Yeah.
which is part of the gift we have here in life. And, at one point, I decided I was building a financial services company. And I had become, and the reason I did that is because, I'm not always the pragmatist. I'm driven to that side in my life in the financial world. And so, I do that very well when I have to go there, but my natural tendency is to be the dreamer, of course, and
Mm.
someone who is a visionary. So when I got out of college, I looked around and just quite innocently thought that, it looks like money controls people, and it really ought to be the other way around.
Yeah.
It just didn't seem right. And so I decided, I got married at that time. I bought a home, and literally UPS backed up the truck with my study material in our driveway for me to become a financial advisor. And as a rebel, I didn't want to join, the Wall Street firms or be a broker of this firm or be told what to do. I decided I was just going to do it on my own, which was equally as reckless as it was wonderful. So after a bunch of years of eating macaroni and cheese and really paying my mortgage, I became a pretty successful advisor. And I go to this moment that was in Banff, Canada. Picture this, up in the mountains, and Wall Street and the financial industry loves ego, right? And many of us feed towards that around money. And so I was certainly victim of that to some degree. And so I had made it to one of the top in the country, or top 10 in the country for this one big organization. And there were 2,500 other top advisors, financial advisors, who were brought to this special place. It's like a palace up in Banff, Canada. And the 10 most special people were the top in the country, were standing back behind. And of that year, I was one of them at the ripe age of, oh gosh, I don't know, maybe 30 or something.
Wow.
And at that point, all the other people were probably my age and a lot older. And so I'm standing backstage. We had this thing around us called, like I used to kid around, called the Badge of Courage. It was our medal. We were about to be paraded in front of all these other 2,500 people with lasers and lights. And look, you can be like these guys too. You get it. And so I'm standing there by myself because I didn't know any of these guys really well. And finally, they all kind of moved over close to me. And one of them, the lead guy, kind of, taking the charge, looks at me and says, hey kid, pretty impressive. How'd you make it here so quick? What's your secret? And I looked at him and I said, well, there's really no secret. We just love every single client. And they all walked away. And that's when I really knew I was a zebra in a herd of horses.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you. I just want to acknowledge you for your courage
Thank you.
and for doing that, because there's, as I've gone through the business world, it's like I understand like this wanting and desire to be my authentic self, and my authentic self said, no, it's about people. It's about taking care of each other. It's about being honest and transparent. And so I found myself in situations where I was trained to lie or fib or, bend the truth for marketing purposes or to make a sale or whatever. So I really get the courage that it takes to take a stand, especially when you're surrounded by very powerful people in the financial world, and say, no, I don't subscribe to that. I want to do things with integrity and transparency. And so, yeah, I just really
A big
acknowledge
surprise, it actually works. Imagine that.
it does. And that's my thing is like, I love that book, People Over Profits by Dale. I forget his last name, but I've been sharing it with some people.
Excellent.
yeah, in the business world. And, you know, and it's like when I get to do that, I get fulfilled because they intuitively know that this is the integrous way, this is the right way, and they're scared too to make that leap. Like, what if I have to surrender my ego? What now? What if everything that I knew and I was fighting for is wrong and I don't have to? You know, so you can see that shift, that fear, you know, in a lot of people because we've been so programmed and trained in business. You got to fight for your money and you got to, you know, step over people, and it's just it's an uncommon. It's becoming more common to really to practice these principles. So thanks for what you're doing. You're welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. And so, you know, really from there, just to bring our listeners up to speed as to where I am today.
Yeah.
You know, I had built a pretty large organization on a smaller scale. And, you know, we had about 5,000 clients. And there was a transition in my life in 2000 where we actually sold that practice. And the backstory to that, which I'm not going to get into deeply at this point, but is it was really a forced sale, even though I was an independent business. And the darkest side of corporate America just reared its head at me. And, you know, the sale happened. My dream was to build this company so I could actually have an island where I could get people to in life and, you know, really become more of me, right? And help people through their purpose and meaning in life. And all of a sudden, in one day, pulled out underneath me that dream. And so, as all initiations do in our lives, they push you into a deeper part of you and allow you to wake up from that dream that we fall into, that domestication, that going from work and back home, working back home, working back home with an occasional vacation mixed in, you know, to get away from it all. So it put me into quite a, you know, tailspin, as it does for most people when you go through initiation. It gives you the opportunity to wake up and really, really remember about yourself and the deeper things that have begun to be cloaked a little bit or ignored.
Yeah.
And so basically that's what happened. I started following my spiritual path more. There were things that were happening to me that were manifesting on a physical level. You know, I was actually I was on the cover of the Washington Post magazine,
Yeah.
dubbed the Shaman of Wall Street, and they wrote about this where actually bubbles would, you know, I don't talk about it a whole bunch, but my hands would bubble up. And I knew intuitively that it was about me using my healing. And if I didn't do it, then things would manifest in my life that would be very unhealthy, not just the bubbles. And so, of course, I did the work and prayed to whoever I thought I was praying to at that point, and they went away. And I didn't believe, of course, at that point, but I'm like, okay. So I followed the thing that is hardest to do, which is follow the illogical path, the signs, the magic that come to you when you wake up. And it took me down a path that I went to. I moved to St. John, Virgin Islands, a little 9x2 island. I was the resident shaman at the Rockefeller Resort, where my clients were primarily the externally wealthy and powerful people in the world. I used to kid around. My work got to be very easy because by the time you took a couple planes and a boat and came up a donkey trail to see this crazy shaman at the Rockefeller Resort, you're ready to get some work done. But my clients were really amazing. They were wonderful, wonderful people that had also fallen into the dream and knew there was something more in their life, something missing, and really were beginning to have the courage to follow that. And so as that unfolded for me, it led me to my shaman roots, which I had no idea of and knew nothing about. But one thing led to another, a little bit of magic, and I found myself over in Nepal, being initiated in the Tamang tradition, in the shamanic tradition, a month over there, which was one of the most exhilarating and toughest months of my life, and sent back by a little 4'5" shaman who I sat in front of, and a few days before I came home. And you know, when shamans go into their trance, what they do traditionally is they will move into a different consciousness. So you tap into a different way of thinking, into the spirit world, and help that with your client or the society. Best way to think of it is really working with soul medicine, right? People are like, well, what is that? Well, Our medical doctors deal with the medicine of the body. Our psychiatrists and therapists deal with the medicine of the mind. Our religious leaders deal with the medicine of the knowledge of wisdom that's passed through the ages, and the spirit. And the shamans deal with the medicine of the soul. And we've forgotten that in this society because it's not something we can touch, feel, smell, taste with our five senses, right?
Yeah.
So we dismiss that as something that's not real,
Yeah.
something we've lost. So anyway, so I'm in front of this shaman who's taking his time shifting. Picture all of this incense burning and flowers in front of his altar. And I'm sitting there, I'm 6'2", lanky legged, and I'm sitting here cross-legged. I got sweat going down my brow. My back is aching, waiting for this guy to go into his state so he can start telling me something. Olivia, all I can think about is how am I going to lay down in front of this guy and pull it off as something honorable? Because I don't know if I can sit here anymore. But anyway, he finally broke into his opening, and he started saying, "You're a shaman. You're a true shaman. You have shaman in your blood." And I had heard that from the villages that I was going to with some of the other shamans, so I was getting a little bit of ego built up with that. Not, I don't think, in a really unhealthy way, but starting to feel good about coming home, about my heritage. And then he shifts, and this is all through a translator because he couldn't speak a word of English.
Yeah.
He starts yelling at me in Nepali, and he starts screaming. He says, "But you're not in your power. How dare you? How dare you not be in your power?"
Oh, I just got goosebumps.
All shamans have shaman in their heritage, in their bloodline. Go home each day and honor your heritage and honor your bloodline. You have not honored your heritage or honored your bloodline. And I'm so happy that you have the chills and I was able to communicate that because that's exactly what happened to me, Lydia. And I got chills through my entire body because I knew exactly what he was saying. Is I'm adopted and I had never found my birth parents. So I knew my next initiation, and that was it. So I actually left 3 days early. In my book, I'm writing about this, but I left 3 days early and I never quit anything. I mean, when I do something, I do it.
Yeah.
But I left 3 days early. I knew I had to. I was going to stop in Bangkok on the way home and work with this wonderful, wonderful woman named Meche Sanchene, who has an orphanage for thousands of kids. I couldn't even do that. I had to go straight back home. I was out of gas. And I knew I had to, follow my next initiation. So that took me in a whole process of opening personally, finding my birth mother, which was amazing, and bringing my birth mother to St. John where I was living. And she was such a simple woman and never really traveled anywhere else. And spending a week with her for my first time, I'm like, hey, Mom, it's been 40 years. What the hell? Why don't you come to St. John and spend a week after I met her? And it was really healthy. I knew I needed to do it to thank her. I wasn't acknowledging it myself, but I also needed to do it to find my own heritage. And sure enough, she had an amazing gift. Where she was like 3 days, we're sitting in my house in St. John, overlooking the beautiful water right next to the national park, and just sitting there quietly with her. We had just kind of started to get more a little used to each other. And she looks over and she goes, "I have something to tell you." I'm like, "Oh, geez, what the hell is this going to be?" She goes, "Well, it might be a little weird." I said, "It's okay." And I was really having a little trouble calling her mom. Because, by the way, my parents that I was adopted by, the best in the world. What a blessing. Those are my true parents. This is my birth parents. So I finally said, I uttered it out because she wanted me to call her mom. And so I said, "Okay, Mom, that's okay. Tell me what." And she says, "Well, she goes, I kind of have this, you might think it's a little strange." I said, "Don't worry about it." She goes, "Well, I kind of have this gift. I can help heal people." I'm like, "Well, don't worry about it, Mom."
You're like, "Don't worry about it. I was already prepared."
Got that one. So,
my God,
anyway,
that's
so
so
that took me through a lot of heritage. It opened me up very deeply personally because I did have a very rough upbringing when I was an infant. I had to be hospitalized because of some significant trauma that happened to me at a very young age, before 6 months. And so through my process of awakening and really coming into my power, which is what I teach and help other people do, there were some very difficult times because as that emotion and those old traumas were ready to come through my body because I had done that work, is one explanation. And the other is, Livia, the other, like, this is true with everybody's story, by the way, right? There's something in this that we need to heal and work through in order to come through our power, which we can talk about in a minute. But as you know, I had the body ready from the work that I had done to be able to process some of those early wounds, deep wounds and pain. On the other side as well, it was also very traditional as the shamans, and the tradition of becoming a shaman is that the spirits will come and they will destroy you. They will literally devour you and break you of everything that you know and everything that you are, so you can become what you're supposed to be. So you can see those two things were happening in this beautiful cacophony of mess and terror and just amazing stuff that was going on. Meanwhile, of course, I'm living everyday life. And at that point, I was consulting for this company and working for this company. And part of it was Dr. Harry Markowitz, who's a Nobel Prize winning laureate for modern portfolio theory, on this small little project to help democratize investment advice for the defined contribution world. So you can see those two worlds like, whoa, this is happening here and this is going on here. So I was flying all over, talking to the top banks and independent broker dealers and doing all this kind of stuff. Meanwhile, this is working me all the way through. It was a very interesting time. But it led me back to finally, Livy and I were just cut off with our communication. We had to bring it back on. And I really don't believe in chance. I think that everything is meant to happen if we're awake and can see the magic. So interestingly enough, I'm not quite sure where it cut off, but we'll find out in a minute when this is all done. But what I was talking about is being broken. Imagine that. Literally being broken and being broken by the spirits, and everything that I knew, the way I knew of life, the way that I was able to function in everyday life was literally stripped from me. I ended up in the hospital in ICU. My body was reduced to nothing. I could get out a babble like an infant. That was it. Sitting under the bright lights in ICU. You could tell the neurologist is in there and the people are wondering, I'm either going through a stroke or this guy's some kind of nutcase, but they could not figure out what was wrong with me. I went through all of the tests, and when I woke up the next morning, I knew exactly what was happening. And of course, my mom and dad, my adopted mom and dad, are sitting right next to me, and my wife, and I knew exactly what was happening. I knew what it was, and it was that although that I was really working on being myself and trying to integrate this life when I came back from St. John, and at that point I had a lot of national press that came out after me. It was very confusing for me because it didn't seem genuine. So I really wasn't interested in doing, the movie stuff that they were talking about and all that. So there's a lot of confusion. But when I woke up, I realized I just can't do it like this anymore. I'm not fully authentic and I have no choice. I've been broken, I'm different, and now I've had a breakthrough. And so what I did from there is basically decide to do the last thing in the world I thought I would ever do, which was start another advisory practice and really truly be the change I wanted to see in this industry. Because I felt that this industry, as I've mentioned before, was filled with a lot of greed, obfuscation, bullying, and that money controlling people and controlling people's lives is getting worse and worse. And that we're souls first. This is it. This is what it's all about. We're here for a reason. We say that as a tagline, but it's much more than the tagline. And that you teach this, Livia, and you live this, and this is what you're propelling with all of your interviews and your work you do, which I love for. But we're here for a reason. Our souls, but from a shamanic standpoint, I see a soul as like a snowflake. It has a pattern like no other. And it has this song, this vibration. And we have a very simple task here on earth. And that is to align our being, who we are, our own song, with our doing. And in between that, there's this magical thing we have to unfold, go through our speed bumps and go through our own growth and our own initiations to wake up. And those wake ups aren't mistakes. They're all part of us becoming stronger. I mentioned very on a personal level that, before age 6 months, there was some stuff that happened. I'll be a little more authentic with you and the viewers. I was beaten pretty badly as an infant, almost to the point of death. But I wouldn't trade that in the world. I wouldn't ask that again or wish it upon anybody else. But it's allowed me to become who I am through this process. So as that unfolded and as I decided to come back into, with a lot of help from the spirit world and science and magic and things that kept pushing me, saying, you need to come back in the financial advisory world. And I kept saying, no, I don't. And it's like, yes, you do. So really my gift is to help bring those bridges together, because the balance between who you are in your soul and your vibration, what you're going to do, there's this thing in between other than our own speed bumps. It's called money.
Oh, so yes,
It drives our world.
it does.
And it drives our world. So it brings me back to the full circle of, from this naive kid after college saying money controls people and it should be the other way around. It truly is a big issue in our world. And it doesn't matter whether you have a ton of it or whether you have a little bit of it. And that's usually the prejudice from both people. So, you know, the people who are on this side and this side think they all have different issues. But let me tell you, from working on both sides of extremely wealthy people as an advisor, as well as people who are barely able to get by every month, the money is not the issue.
Yeah.
It's something else. But money and the power of money and using that money to actually move ourselves into our purpose is really the key. And so at Conscious Capital Wealth Management, what I started and what we're driving, we're in our 4th year now, we're excited. We have, of course, we have an office in St. John, Virgin Islands. We have one in Westport, Connecticut. We have one in Glastonbury, Connecticut. We have one in Westbrook, Connecticut. Each one of our offices are like these, you know, when you walk in there, are they perfect? No, not yet. I don't care. We'll get there someday, whatever that is. But you get a feeling of love and embrace. We call it our live whole centers. So our live whole centers are the ones that hold that energy and hold the advisory side.
So awesome.
And we have therapists, we have massage, we have health coaches. It's more of a spa type environment as opposed to, you know, sitting in the stuffy, right? You know, it's like, show me your money, show me your statements, right? All that stuff. So it's really the antithesis of that. And we focus on you're here for a reason. Our advisors go through this intense training program called Live Whole, so a whole advisor training program. It's a 6-week intensive program that really rips them deep. You know, we go deep. My co-trainer is an amazingly talented 30-year therapist. And so we really work them deep, and then they go for a whole nother year of very intense training. We have a 3-step process called Connect, Dream, Empower. You can find it on our website if you want to look. But we're very transparent about costs, about process, about what we stand for, which is really wonderful because people look at us and say, you know, Olivia, they're like, especially in the industry, they're like, those guys are a little weird, which is fine. Or people say, oh my God, where have they been?
Yeah.
And so we're really blessed to have attracted some really great financial advisors, some wonderful people. We work with a lot of people going through transition. Big surprise, right? Because they're waking up and they're vulnerable and they need some help and guidance from the money side as well as from life guidance side. So people going through divorce, people going through retirement, a death in the family, empty nest, you know, you name it, illness, or maybe just, you know, I can't live like this anymore.
So amazing. Well, I gotta tell you, I mean, from my perspective, I'm like, it's so refreshing to have met you because my fear, especially taking on my finances, is trust. Not being able to trust bookkeepers, accountants, financial advisors, like the whole money world has been a big, giant, I don't trust you, which has impacted my finances because it's stopped me from really wanting to be integrous in that. So I've had to do a lot of work around that the last few years. So when I met you, it was just so refreshing to be like, wow, here's someone I feel like I can really trust with my money, you know, and being able to create it and grow it. And so it's just, I think it's an amazing thing what you're doing. And
Thank you.
I just know you already are touching millions of lives and you're out to transform the financial advising world. So share more about that because I know you're doing some big things that not just in your own company, but in all over the world and other people's companies.
I couldn't have put it better. Yes, so we are zebras in a herd of horses, and we are out there revolutionizing this industry. And so, you know, and it's done in a way that is authentic, meaning that we're going to be the change we want to see in the world. And, you know, if we end up being, you know, 6, 7 offices, you know what, that's fine. If we end up moving it across the country, which I suspect will happen, that might be even better because it's a bigger impact. So that's with Conscious Capital. I also have my, obviously my private practice where I help people through transition and crisis as a shaman. I do a lot of writing and speaking and interviews, thanks to you, so we can get out and get the message to other people that, you know what, go love yourself, trust in yourself. This is not, those aren't just words. This isn't some fancy new age bullshit. It's about, you're really here for a reason. And we need a community of people that can support each other for knowing that. And knowing that it's not some special thing that I have as a gift because I happen to be some middle class, white shaman who has a weird story, right? Everybody's got their own story, right?
Yeah.
Mine just happens to be in a way that can express it maybe in a little bit of an illuminated way because it's a little bit more different, which is why I had a lot of press. This financial guy who's a shaman. It's like, that doesn't fit. But it's interesting when you see, that was done during the crash in 2008. And it's very interesting to see, I was on the cover of the Washington Post with, down in Wall Street, and I had my headdress on. And when I was interviewed by NPR, their headline was a financial guru and shaman or something. But I'll never forget the question that she asked me. I think it was Michelle Norris. She said, so, why did you decide to come out? Why did you decide to do this? Right? And I mean, of course, her nature of her question was very, very sound, which is, you're going to be on the cover of the Washington Post with a headdress on. Who's going to take you seriously? How are you going to survive in the world of finance? And my answer to it was just like my answer was with those advisors backstage. It's like, how can you not be who you are? And it hurts you and it hurts the world if you're not, because it's just stress.
Yeah.
Like I talk about that snowflake making that sound, that vibration, Livia. Part of my gift is and it's not through my ears, but I can quite literally sense that.
Yeah.
And so when you can think of that as an individual who is not in harmony, it doesn't really make a good sound. It's off, right? The tone is off. And you're a great singer, so you get that analogy, right?
Yeah.
So if the tone's off a little bit, it's like, ooh, and that creates this discord in our being, in our body. And it begins to create an imbalance in our physical body. And then we become out of ease or diseased in our physical body. And when you can imagine one person being out of tune, now imagine the entire world and so many of us that are singing out of tune. It's like this chorus that is just like, oh, we can stop.
I know, it hurts. It literally hurts. Yeah.
But that's the negative side of it. The positive side is it's all meant to be that way. Yeah. And so as people wake up and realize that they're out of tune for a reason. It's not like you've screwed up or made a mistake, you've done something wrong, or those types of things we typically beat ourselves up to because it was red penned when we were little or we got a C or a D. It's part of life, And so our culture, I'm very, very hopeful because our culture is waking up and our culture is beginning. It wasn't long ago where you wanted to hide on the way in to go see a therapist and hope nobody saw you, right? And then run back out to your car and get back out. I mean, I think people are starting to realize that, people like yourself and traditional therapists and coaches, shamans, it's part of why we're all here together, right? To help each other and move each other through. It's not because we're broken, it's because we're opening.
Yeah, and I shared a little bit of my story in the Facebook group, sharing authentically with people, like my struggle and journey through, like what you're saying, really stepping into my truth and what I feel is my higher purpose and bringing this message into the business world. Because and like I acknowledged you, it takes tremendous courage because there's a whole lot of like, oh, it's woo woo and there's just a lot of people that have self-limiting belief systems around that you can't be authentic and make money at the same time. And we're debunking that. We're actually saying, no, vulnerable is sexy. I like that, how Whole Foods and conscious capitalism have that whole, that statement is the vulnerability is the new sexy. And it really is. Like you even sharing your story just allows me to connect with you. Like, wow, this is a real guy. Like he doesn't he doesn't just want, to take my money and whatever. Like he really wants to build a real connection with me. And those are the people that I want to spend my money with, are people that I have relationship with, and there's a bond and rapport. And you can only do that, connect with a person, by sharing the real you, the good, the bad, the ugly.
That's it. So part of our training, our first step is connect. Connect, dream, empower is what we train our advisors on. And connect is, first of all, they go through our boot camp because you got to be whole first yourself.
I
Right?
love that.
Or
Yes.
other than that, it's marketing and all the same old crap. It's just you've got to be whole yourself first. But in our connect meeting, it's about being authentic and connecting. So our advisors actually share of themselves first. It kind of brings me back to the old school. 20 years ago, they're like, well, how do you handle a question if a client is bold enough to ask you where your money is? There's like some of this like dodge and weave kind of old crap. It's like, so it's all of that stuff is on its new head. Turn it inside out. And when you talk about community, it helps from the beginning. If you connect authentically, then we're friends for life. And that's a kind of a scary thing when you talk about from a business. But we really are. We love our clients. We say that first and foremost, and we know that our clients are here for a reason. And we're not here to push dogmas. I was interviewed the other day, and they were asking me, well, how about the socially responsible investment stuff and all the environmentally, social, and governance stuff? Now, I know a thing or two about that. I've spoken in Chicago at Morningstar in front of the entire industry about that, and I'm very passionate. But you'll never find me driving those dogmas. When I become intimate with a client, then I get to know what's important to them. And if it is important for them to align their values with their investments, then we're very good at that, and we will help them do that, partially, fully, or completely. But if that's not something for them that's meaningful, I'm not going to push that on them at this point. It's who they are, and we're welcoming people as they are and where they are in life. And when it comes to the community, by the way, you can think of the greatest thing is to have a company, and you're developing this in the community, where your clients are like the most incredible people. We have events, it's so much fun. Our stories all the time. I had just yesterday, it happens every single day, Linda. Yesterday I had this amazing woman in, she's like 60 years old. She broke her hip, which is another story, which wasn't great, but she broke it in Ireland because she actually followed her dreams. So we invested her money, right? We helped her with her dreams. Her dream was to buy this home in Ireland. And every once in a while she'd check in with me and say, I'm out of my mind, I shouldn't do it. And I'd say, okay, take a couple breaths, breathe. This is your dream, we're gonna do this, right? She bought this home in Ireland, this quintessential thatched roof. I mean, it blows your mind, this place, right? So this happened like a year ago. She just happened to be here yesterday, so it's on my mind for a review. But it happened a year ago. She comes back, so signs, right? So we take our spirituality into our work as well, but I also can go both sides, right? Because we need to be grounded, right? So this is a good example. So my client, who's an attorney, this woman who went to Ireland, she basically said to me, I'm looking at this place, I can't believe the magic, this guy lives here and it's connected to here, and so we're starting to see all the magic connect. Yeah. I said, Kathleen, slow down, okay? There's nobody else that you can talk to better than me about magic and spiritual stuff. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna put that in one container, and now we're gonna look at this rationally, right? You're gonna go back, when you go back, you're gonna look at 7 different places. We're going to go through the numbers, right? All of that kind of stuff, because it is both worlds. But anyway, she came back after buying this place. She comes to our office. She brings homemade Irish soda bread, proper Irish butter, and she shows on our big screen going through her home and all. I mean, so it's just wonderful.
That's amazing. Really so real quick, Lawrence, just give me like a snapshot of what you guys do. Like, let's say, the viewers, they want to come in and they're, wanting to get their money management together. What's like the process that you take your clients through?
Thank you. So I kept referring to the 3 steps.
Yeah.
So the first is connect. And so what we do is I'll have a conversation with you, just open-hearted, without agendas. It truly, truly is not about me trying to get your money, because I don't even know if it's a match yet. I don't even know. We tell our clients, look, the worst possible thing that's going to happen if you come in physically, that you get a hug at the end, we're better for knowing each other, but it's not a match. Yeah. And we also have clients all over the country we've never met. So we do this virtual hug, from a video. So the first thing is really just to connect,
Yeah.
which is often the antithesis of what you see in the financial advisory space, where it's more of, I've talked about the fear and obfuscation. This stuff can be very complicated. And so it can be very overwhelming. And unfortunately, the industry, for a large degree, has taken that to a place of making people feel what I say unokay, right? And so then they get a little overwhelmed, they get unsure of themselves, and then unfortunately things are kind of forced down their throat. Not everybody does that, but it's a big part of the industry, unfortunately. So we really turn that inside out, and connecting is just to connect. The second is, and we deal with, I'm drawing this visual that none of our viewers have seen yet, so forgive me, my Italian type hands. But we deal with the whole body. And so with the whole body, the left brain, right brain, our industry typically, if you can visualize this on the left side of a client, there are two steps. And one is the data collection, and then the standard deviations, the alphas, the betas, the modern portfolio theory, all very important stuff. That's typically where our industry begins and ends. So what we'll do in our second step is we'll go to dream, and we do that analytical stuff and data intake with you as well to start to understand where you are. But then we also take the time and talk to you about your dreams. Because what is money, Livia, if it's not empowering your dreams, other than taking care of basic needs? So I have a client who we took over a trust account for that client, and her dream is to take care of a rescue farm. She wants to have a rescue farm to take care of animals. And she loves goats. But you know what? She was safe enough to be able to share that, right? I mean, people might laugh at you for something like that, but she was safe enough to share that with me. So every time we have a conversation, guess what I ask her? Say, hey, Lisa, when's the last time you saw a goat?
Yeah.
And she starts laughing. And I laugh with her and I say, I'm not kidding. What have you done towards moving towards your dream? How can I help you? Oh, and by the way, here's what your investments are doing. And here's where they're lined up, and here's why you can make moves like this today. So that's really our dream step. And then the final step, which is most important, is empower. And so all the way through that process, we tell clients, look, if it's not something you want to continue with, or us, we'll tell each other you can bail out. This is not a sales process. This is a relationship process. So the third is empower. And so left brain, right brain again, right? So for the analytical side on the left brain, we take the best of technology and we empower you with technology. We have an app on our phone with one click. There's private communications back to our office, all of our events, videos constantly pushed at you, 2-minute videos to be able to empower you about knowledge, about different things of investments, which by the way are on our website and free to everybody as well.
Yeah.
And then also, more importantly, one click, everything you own updated every single day.
Wow.
All in one dashboard and spot for you. So it's about really when we get unsure of ourselves or weird about money, and you were sharing personally about going through the trust issues. Often what we do is we say, let's just put the statements in the drawer. Let's just kind of dismiss the whole thing because I don't want to look at it because it's uncomfortable. So part of empowering is we help you look at it. Be there with it every day, because when you know what you have, then you can help manifest things. And we use that as our financial platform too. The other side, on the right brain side, is we wrap you around with this love virtually of this incredible team. We have a director of life transitions. It's a 30-year therapist who's there for every one of our clients. And it doesn't matter what you're going through, you pick up the phone, you dial the extension, and Chris is there. We call her the laughing therapist. She's off the charts. She's so good. Yeah. We also have a health coach. So our health coach, we say, if we help get you to your goals and through your dreams, and you're not there to enjoy them, what good are they? So we push out cleanses and all sorts of types of programs and nutrition. The other thing we have is a director of life planning. So all of this technology of getting things onboarded, we have a concierge program to get it all up for you and get it loaded up and support you with our heavier planning. So for our larger, more complicated clients, we have a certified financial planner who heads all that up, and we do a lot of the work to actually work things through with your plans and your goals. That's pretty much it. We have a director of advisor empowerment and training. So she's the one I referred to earlier, another 20-plus year therapist. And she's there to help keep the advisors whole after they go through the program and really continue. When things And we fall back into old patterns, and advisors aren't, immune to that. So we bring that back in and we say, okay, where are you having some issues? Let's talk it through. Let's work on it.
It's
So
amazing.
that's what we do. So that's who we
You're
are.
so inspiring. Seriously, thank you
Thank you.
for what you've created and really staying true to you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
And you
you're
too. Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, it's just this is what I'm so clear. I was actually telling a buddy of mine, it's like there's nothing for me else, there's nothing more for me to do except just live into this purpose and have it fulfilled. That's it, you know.
And
And
then on your path, pay attention to signs and magic, and as I know you do, so I don't have to tell you this for the viewers who might not have heard that language before, but when you follow your purpose, when you follow your dreams, something magical happens.
yeah.
It's not like you attract nirvana, okay? And that's I think a misconception, and that's what puts a lot of people back and say, look, I'm just going to go back and go to church once a week on Sundays and mow the lawn and go to work, right? Forget about this lunacy of my dream. It's not about once you follow your dream, everything is perfect, okay? That's crap. It's not real.
Yeah.
Waking up is not easy.
Yeah.
In some ways, falling asleep is easier, short term.
Yeah.
So, but when you follow your dreams, look for magic, look for signs, right? I mean, hell, the last thing in the world I was going to do was come back into this business. I mean it. I mean, I was done. I had worked really hard. We'd done great. We were sending out 400 boxes of chocolate a month to clients at one point. I had done it. It was enough.
Yeah.
I've done this. Check that box. But when you pay attention to signs, there are things that are there to support you. Physical people, the animal world, as well as the spiritual world. And so as you become more present, and this is the one thing I'd want to leave people with, our viewers with, if you don't show up to class, you can't learn. And what I mean by that is when I go back to our sleepwalking, if you're not present, then you can't see the magic. And so taking some breaths and it takes practice, because we practiced the other way for many, many years, but taking some breaths and coming back into the moment, and really coming back and seeing things as they are, sometimes can be the hardest thing to do. But coming back and really seeing things as they are, do a little task with yourself if you want to take a little practice going forward. Take a moment and do what the shamans say is stalking. So find a quiet spot. This is not meditation, by the way. Find a quiet spot. Take a few deep breaths and watch your thoughts. Take yourself from yourself and watch your thoughts. And what I want you to do, and you can replay this because it's going to be recorded, right? So please, if this was resonating with you as a listener, feel free to replay this so you can have the directions. But take some time, relax, watch your thoughts. Be patient with yourself because that's not something that we're used to doing. So watch your thoughts, and here's a little game you can play to help you do that. Picture a balloon or a leaf. Picture yourself sitting by a river or actually holding a balloon and letting it go when I take you through this practice. Pick one of those two that resonates better for you. But what you want to do is you want to watch your thoughts. And I'll give you an example. So my thought is how blessed I am to be present with Olivia right now and have the gift to this to move out in some magical way to be able to touch someone I maybe won't even ever meet. So that's what was on my mind, right? I'm not manufacturing, I'm just watching myself. That's a present thought, so I'm going to write present on the balloon or on the leaf, and I'm going to let it go down the river, or I'm going to let it go up in the air. I'm literally going to breathe that thought and let that go. But I've labeled it, I've identified what it is. I come back to my breath and I say it again, and I stalk. I stalk myself. One of the most masterful things you can do from a shaman practice. I stalk myself and I watch. And now I'm just thinking about what's happening in the other part of my other offices here and all the things that I'm going to have to do after this interview. Future thought. Breath, let it go. You get the idea.
Yeah.
Okay? And so that's the beginning of coming present. You're not trying to think more in the present. Please don't do that. You're not trying, if you punish yourself for thinking too much in the future or in the past, just watch yourself do it. You don't have to do anything with it.
I can so relate to that. And there's so much out there that's like, yeah, it's very easy to get confused because they're like, be present. And so we get so attached to trying to be present instead of just actually being present. And that's what you're pointing to is just be with whatever's there and
That's
then
it.
let it go. Be with it, let it go.
And shamans are never, never afraid of tricks. It's a wonderful trick I use on myself, and we have other people use. It's the mind is going to tell you it's got to be more complicated than that,
Yeah.
and it will tell you that. So just watch your mind telling you that.
Yeah.
Be
Okay.
present with it, and let it go. And if you do that in the morning, this is a process of waking. It's a course that I actually teach of waking up. And so if you do that in the morning, and you just take a couple breaths and you watch yourself, you watch your thoughts. Just label them and watch your thoughts. Then you can move into your day a little bit more consciously. As opposed to getting out of bed, I get in the shower, the cat walks in front of me. I get pissed at the cat for walking in front of me. I get downstairs and somehow I burn an egg and I start yelling at my kid. Going to work and some jerk's in front of me, so I beep my horn. And then I come to work and everything seems to not be going too well and I'm kind of mildly pissed off. I'm not really sure why. Then I come home and have a fight with my wife or my significant other. And then I come back up my way up to bed and the cat walks in front of me again and I kick the cat. And I love that story because that's actually taken a little bit from this great motivational guy. I don't know if you ever heard of him, Zig Ziglar.
Yeah.
He used to say, "Who kicked your cat today?" So, it's waking up and going through your process of life of being more present.
Yeah.
So understand your emotions and why you're doing it, but it's really just becoming more present. And once you shine light on that, you can begin to wake up. And when you begin to wake up, life can become much more empowering.
That's so amazing. So you gave the viewers a free gift. Can you just share a little bit about what that is? Because we're going to post it right below this video.
My free gift. So, my free gift is going to be coming and attending one of our events, which is going to be in January. And we will post this up on the video. So everybody who is listening to this will be able to come in for free, and we'll make sure that they can come in for free.
Incredible.
And it's going to be a great event, and I will keep the secret alive, but it's really going to be about, following the process of waking up still and coming into your power and really harnessing your life to become you.
Amazing. Oh, beautiful. Well, I definitely encourage everyone to do that. And I'm definitely going to look at those dates to see if I can make it too. That'd be amazing.
Good.
Wonderful. Well, thanks again for being here, sharing your heart, being so vulnerable, being so courageous. You're just so inspiring. And it's people like you who just warm my heart. You just make me want to push forward and keep doing what it is that I'm doing. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Livia. And listen, for everybody else out there, just don't listen to people who say it's stupid, it's dumb, you're not good enough, you're too fat, you're too ugly, you're too old. Stop. Don't listen.
Yeah.
Just really listen to yourself. Be true to yourself and follow your dreams and just watch for magic as you do it. And find a group of people that can help support you in an environment in the community, which you can be there for, which, by the way, is part of our Live Whole series, which your guests are being invited to that can be part of.
Beautiful. Ah, that's so true. We got to plug into the community. So definitely plug in to Lawrence Ford's community. Thank you again. And viewers, it's been so amazing having you be here with us and just holding the space. So thanks for tuning in, and I look forward to sharing more with you. Bye.